Hey guys, it's Alex Corson here, and I am joined with Brett Johnson. Yay!
Alex!
Hello. So there's been a lot of breaches around lately, and Brett was just on with my good friend Matt Solomon, who I actually used to work for over at ID Agent. He was doing a Krampus event, which is epic. And then all of a sudden, it became widely known and accepted that the White House got breached and the Department of Agriculture got breached, and some really stupid things have been happening that shouldn't be happening. And I called Brett up and I said, "Hey, you want to be on a call with me?" And he said, "Sure." so Brett, I just want to thank you for joining me. And
anytime I can come on a show and complain, I'm all about it.
And this is why I like you. Anyways, so I wanted to get a feel, because the majority of the people that watch anything that I put out are either affiliated with MSPs or are large organizations, like the contractors for large government organizations that are a part or a faction of the IT team. And most of the time it's security and investigations and analytics. And then MSPs are out there going like, oh shoot, what do we do? Because it's totally new with COVID and everybody working from home. Now all of a sudden there was a doorway in that they just had to make sure that door was locked. And now with everybody working from home, it's a bunch of doors all over the place. And people have access in all sorts of different ways, shapes, and forms. And the reason that I wanted you to come on specifically is because it was your job to hack in, and you were the cybercrime that they were trying to protect against. So who better to sort of talk people through what to do?
Well, I mean, I was that guy. You know, Secret Service called me the original internet godfather. The way I got the title was being convicted of 39 felonies because 38 just wasn't enough.
And you couldn't round up to 40?
Exactly. 40, I like that 39.
All right.
39. So 39 felonies. I was placed on the United States Most Wanted list. I had an escape from prison, and I built the first organized cybercrime community. It was called Shadow Crew. It was a precursor to today's darknet and darknet markets. It actually laid the foundation for the way modern cybercrime channels operate today. Those 39 felonies, well, they had to do with refining modern financial cybercrime as we now know it. So identity theft, tax return identity theft, credit card fraud, synthetic fraud, phishing attacks, exfiltration of data, all that. I am that guy. If you want to see, if there's always a guy, and I am that guy. So I do have a bit of knowledge, experience, and insight into some of the problems that we've got going on today. And of course, you mentioned the White House has been hacked, but it goes much farther than that. We've got this Solarwinds thing. You know, last week we were hit with news that FireEye had been breached. And for those in the industry, I mean, FireEye is it. I mean, that causes pause when you hear the news that FireEye has been compromised. But it was actually much worse than that. So, you know, the last 4 or 5 days, we've had news that this company, software called Solarwinds, was compromised. It's a supply chain attack. And Solarwinds is ubiquitous in the industry. I mean, it is. You cannot avoid Solarwinds.
For sure.
It's in all of the Fortune 500 companies, most government offices. I mean, it's all over the place. And it was, so the Russians get access to that back in March. And it was finally announced this last week that, oh, well, you know, they've had unfettered access to Solarwinds since that point. And it looks like at least 18,000 companies have been victimized because of this. It allowed the Russians to go in and have basically a God's eye view of the networks, of the emails, of the way these companies operated, everything else across the board for 9-10 months. absolutely insane. So I was reading on that today, and I had made the comment last week that, FireEye had came out and said, well, they breached us by using unseen techniques. And when I see a company say
To which
something,
you said,
yeah, when I see a company say something like that, and I don't know if I don't know if you put up with cursing on your show or not.
100%. Go
All right.
ahead. It would demonetize me if I was ever sponsored, but I'm not. So go ahead.
Okay. So when I see a company say something like that, my initial response is bullshit. Unseen techniques, my ass. Because here's the
right.
92%. 92% of every single attack uses known exploits.
Yeah.
92%. So here I am, and I made the comment on Twitter. I made it on LinkedIn. I was like, look, this is what they're saying. I don't buy it. Well, it took, 5 days for me to be proven right on that because it's got definite echoes of the NotPetya attack. So NotPetya, for those who don't know, NotPetya is the most successful, most costly cyber attack in history. The Sandworm Group, another Russian hacking group. This one was Cozy Bear. The last one was Sandworm. The Sandworm Group decides that they're going to compromise the update server of basically the QuickBooks of the Ukraine. So they take over the update server. They fake a Microsoft certificate, known exploit, to send out this NotPetya thing. It looks like it's ransomware, but it's really not. It's designed to destroy computers, is what it's designed to do. So they take over the update server. They fake the Microsoft certificate. The update is basically this NotPetya that gets sent out that looks like it's ransomware, but it's not. They use Mimikatz, which harvests credentials out of RAM, known exploit. They use Eternal Blue and Eternal Romance, known exploits which were actually patched a year prior. It looks for outward-facing SMBs, so ports 137, 138, 139, and 445. It looks for those ports, which that has been known about, for over a decade.
So then it would have been perfectly accessible for a SolarWinds update back in March.
So the echoes, that was a supply chain as well. So this next one comes in, another supply chain attack. So that was the most successful in history, causes $50 billion worth of damage, hits the Ukrainian nation, gets outside of the Ukrainian nation, hits Maersk, hits pharmaceutical companies that have still not been mentioned today. So you would think, and that's not like that took place a long time ago. This was 2016, 2017. So you would think that people would be like, it worked the first time. Maybe it might do it the same time. No, not at all. Not at all. You got FireEye saying, oh, it's unseen. We didn't see it. Didn't see it coming, but it happened. Well, it was seen. It was seen. So I'm sorry. It's just like, I have to hold my head on this because, of course, they take over on this new attack. It basically compromises the update server. Not only that, but the password. Now here FireEye is saying that it's an unseen technique. The password in question to gain access was Solarwinds 123.
Shut up.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's okay. All right. So.
And they were warned about this a year prior.
So so then to reference what you were doing last week with ID Agent, which has, like Bullfish, and they're doing these phishing scam tests and things of that nature, they would have caught something like that, right? Because of password protection.
You would think.
Or if they had a Veriato in place, they would have seen people doing stupid at least, so that whenever you're going back and trying to pull the logs and going through all of that stuff, you could get the context. So it sounds to me like, of all the 18,000 people that were compromised, they had the very basic bare bones from a network management perspective, but their cybersecurity was shoddy at best.
Well, but think about it. It's not just 18,000 people; it's 18,000 clients.
Right.
So we're talking, the damage that's done here is, I'm not sure you can put a dollar.
Hundreds of thousands. Yeah. And on top of it, the data's gone. And I mean, like,
Data, the way these
oh,
companies operate, everything else done.
and
Done.
You don't know what's missing, and you don't
No,
know what's been
emails
edited.
read across the board, everything across the board like that. The SolarWinds, for those who may not be aware, it basically it, it basically the software tested for vulnerabilities. So when you have an attacker comes in and they're able to take that over, the software itself was masking the behavior of the attacker because it was testing for vulnerabilities. It actually gave a God's eye view of any company they decided to, any network they decided to look at, is what happens. I mean, you cannot ask for a better attack than that. Add in that, because of the election, and that's one of the things I talked about earlier today, because of the election and the worries about the fraud and the vulnerabilities there, all eyes were directed over there, which means that the attackers, meanwhile sitting in SolarWinds, had unfettered access. No one was looking at them. They were able to do whatever they wanted to do. That's the issue. And then you add in stuff like this password, you add in that, and the echoes are there because of not only the supply chain attack, but also it was looking for those SMBs as well. It wanted that remote access and everything else, which you had because SolarWinds requires that. So that you had these definite echoes coming in from not Petya. Is it the same? No, it's not the same. But you had these echoes, that these somewhat similarities that were there, that people should have been sitting there going, okay, this could happen again.
So what do you think went wrong then? If people should have noticed things, right? They should have been at least aware that this is a possibility in the future, but then things are getting missed. Is it the human element, or is it not monitoring enough? What is it?
There's a human element. I actually I spoke to a CIO today, and I asked him. I was like, "Hey, how popular, how common are supply chain attacks?" So he goes and he tries to pull the data. He can't find any. So it's been discussed. The idea of doing a supply chain attack has been discussed, but actually finding relevant data that talks about supply chain attacks, real ones, it's not there. You can't find it, or at least he could. And this guy knows how to pull data. So I mean, the FireEye is correct in that. I mean, you're right that is an unseen attack vector that people worry about it, but as far as it really happening pretty often, no. Now you've got Home Depot, you've got Target, but that's a different type of supply chain attack. We're talking with SolarWinds, that's technology supply chain. So it's completely different on this. And it's a cause for concern. So what you're looking at is an attacker who uses a degree of known exploits that comes in with a completely different attack vector that no one's really looking at. Now, of course, the problem with that is that there's always something that no one's looking at, always. And they
Sure.
decided to knock on that specific door. All eyes were directed someplace else, and they decided to look at that. Should we have seen that coming? Yes, we should have seen that coming. We should have.
Is this when you get on your soapbox? Because I'm really looking forward to
I mean,
soapbox.
it's this bullshit of. I mean, it really is. It's that stuff of you. Me being a criminal, you tend to look at. So you roll the dice. You're in Russia. You're part of the Sandworm group. You've got Sandworm. You've got Cozy Bear. I'm not sure what other bullshit names they've got for hacking groups over there. But whatever that is, you've got Sandworm. So Sandworm does not Petya. They stand up. They hitch up their trousers. They're like, yeah, that's us. What you guys going to do to top that? Well, of course, the other guys and the other groups are going, well, shit, man, we got to do something to top that.
Right.
So what do? They're like, show you what's up. We'll do SolarWinds. Well, you know what? The good guys, the people over in the United States, they should have realized that shit was going on over there. It's all about, let's be honest, it's all about measuring certain sizes.
Yeah.
Okay? It's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what that stuff is. And they should have known that. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that if you're looking at third party access, that if you can gain access to a security company,
Hmm.
you are done at that point.
But then, so let me be devil's advocate, right? How many tools is too many tools to be protecting, right? And because I mean, I'm peddling tools, so
Sure.
it happens, but at the same time, you gotta risk and reward. How much is too much stuff in your stack versus knowing what to do with the stack you have,
Well, I mean,
right?
and you're right. I mean, you're right. It that is a problem. You've got SolarWinds, which is absolutely ubiquitous, absolutely. So of course that's a target. Now, is there a mindset? And I can't speak for that company. I can't, because they do a lot of good work. And because of this
I
attack,
just got marketing from them today, by the way, in my inbox,
there you
and
go.
I was like, oh, bless your hearts, nobody's going
Yeah.
to be taking that seriously this week.
No, I mean they're done. They're done. I mean
For a
that's
while, yeah.
it's so ubiquitous, but the result of that has been you've got a lot of the clients who have completely shut off that system, and as if that's a good thing to do.
Which no, that's like, remember 2008 when it's crashing and everybody's
Yeah.
jumping out of the stock market, and I'm like, you're already ingrained. Let's stop the bleeding before we just
So
get
you're
rid
going
of everything.
so because they're hit, and I agree, it's a big hit, but because they're hit, you're going to basically shut off all eyes that you've got on at that point. How do you figure that's a good idea at all?
Right.
At all.
And they've already exposed themselves, so it's not like they're going to see anything new.
Right. So do not kill yourself with this breach. If you're signed on to that, please don't turn off everything, because that's just an invitation at that point. Do not do that. And I mean you're right. I mean they're so big that the idea becomes, from an attacker point of view, if you can gain access to that. Now, was the mindset over there that they were untouchable? I don't know. I honestly don't know. But that password of SolarWinds 123, kind of gives me the
It
idea.
begs the case, yes.
I mean, it kind of gives me the idea of, oh yeah, hell, we're untouchable. No, nobody's going to touch us. Yeah, we're SolarWinds 123, baby. No, I mean that's Anchorman mentality right there. I don't know if you've heard about us, but we're kind of a big deal.
We're kind of a big deal for sure.
So that hubris. I mean, it screams hubris to have that. It truly does. And I don't want to blame the victim, because I talk all the time about the only person at fault for crime is the criminal. But you have to realize that you have and I spoke about this the other day. You have a place in the cybercrime spectrum. You do. I don't care how big you are. I don't care what vertical you're in. You have a place in the cybercrime spectrum. How big, how small, how unimportant, how important, how rich, how poor, whatever product that is. If you have a product or service that makes money, a criminal can and will make money on that same product or service. That is exactly what we see with SolarWinds. Exactly. They're huge. I mean, they're gigantic. Does that mean that they're that criminals are not looking at them? No. No. That means that, by God, that's a grail. If you can get that, you're pretty good at that point. So of course you've got nation states that are looking at that. Of course you do. I mean, it's just for people to not understand that, to not get that, is absolutely uncalled for. Anybody out, and I made that statement this morning, and I'll say it again. I've said it twice so far. Anybody that did not see this coming should really reconsider their career position at this point. That's just the truth of it.
Yeah, you were saying that earlier today when we were planning out this talk, and I was like, yes, get on your soapbox, because I tend to come across much more kind and you know and like, here's what you do, here's how to plan, this is what happens when this happens to you. But there's really no, guys, there's no excuse. um yes, or you could still get hit for sure, but there's no excuse to not at least be prepared,
I mean, I
or
respect
take the
FireEye.
precautions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do. I respect FireEye. I respect Solarwinds. But you forgot that. You forgot that you too have a place in the cybercrime spectrum. You have a place. You do.
So now, question for the people that, knock on wood, did not get hit by this, right? And we're not talking SolarWinds or FireEye. We're talking about the people that this affected
Sure.
past them, right? This is their customers or their would-be customers that SolarWinds still has a place, right? Like they still need some sort of eye on security in their, right. Like, I mean, whether you're going to use like a haystacks or whatever, they have to have something. When you're looking to hack into that, what I don't even know where the question, it's too big. It's too big of a question. Like, where do you start? If you're an MSP and you're just saying, hey, like, we're doing the infrastructure, and now all of a sudden, oh shoot, cybercrime. I know, okay, user activity monitoring. I know backup. I know disaster recovery. I know, password protection, understanding from when you're getting a ransom attack or a cyber attack. But this goes so much deeper. What do you put in place?
The thing is on this is,
or do you just use it all?
Well, it takes that layered approach. You have to do that. All right. Understand that with FireEye and the SolarWinds and subsequently FireEye, the issue there is you're dealing with things that are so big that your typical attacker will not touch that. Will not, because the repercussions are so huge that they will not even bother with that. But again, it's understanding your place in the cybercrime spectrum, because those companies have a place, and their place is with nation state attackers. That's their place. So, and they forgot that. They didn't understand that. I don't know what the hell went on there. But the fallout from that for the clients and the tertiary clients and everything else down the line.
Because those are ultimately who gets affected.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Now, you cannot, you're signed on to one of these companies. You cannot turn it off because you need the protection. You cannot turn it off. Now, what that attack actually does, though, it's a successful supply chain attack. Now, my belief, and not everyone has that belief, but my belief on this is that the only thing this does, first of all, you've got the attackers. They knew there was not going to be any repercussions, period. There's not. You can talk about NATO. You can talk about all the agreements on the planet that you want to. At the end of the day, no one is going to do anything against Russia or Cozy Bear or Sandworm. It's not going to happen. Okay? So the only thing that does is, because there's zero repercussions, they get away with it. That sends, this is where trickle-down theory actually works, because it actually sends a message to not just the nation state attackers, but to every single attacker on down the daisy chain, saying, hey, these types of attacks work. Let's start looking at this attack vector, is what happens. So it's not just SolarWinds, who, again, I have a lot of respect. They do a great job. It's just they screwed up on this. Same thing for FireEye. They do a great job, but come on, guys, you messed up right here. Okay, don't pull my chain with unseen techniques. Okay, the thing is that it's not just SolarWinds and FireEye. Now it's going to go ahead and trickle on down every place else. You're going to start seeing those tests. Okay, because it worked here. What can we do? What can a group that's on the dark web do to compromise? We had been seeing these little test runs trying to hit security companies for retail merchants, but it's going to go past that now. Is the only message that this thing sends from this point. Talking about MSPs, small businesses, medium businesses, things like that. I mentioned this the other day, and this is the thing. This is simply a new tool that the bad guys have. Okay, and they have a toolbox, and in the toolbox, they've got social engineering attacks. They've got the spoof phone calls. They've got the RDPs. They're looking for SMBs constantly, things like that. They've got the side SQL server attacks. They've got the supply chain attacks now. So the only thing that is just a new tool that's going to be deployed. And it's a new tool that a lot of potential victims have not seen before. As I said, I spoke to a CIO today who actually tried to pull the data on supply chain attacks and couldn't find it. All right. I mean, you can reference Target and Home Depot. You can reference NotPetya. You can reference this one. But as far as having a history of supply chain attacks, not really. It's hard to find the data on that. So because of that, we've got a new tool that a lot of people have not seen. They need to be prepared for that. So in their defense toolbox, there's not one single tool that does the job. There's a variety of tools. So you need to start looking at, okay, you need to start talking to your MSPs. Okay, what have you guys got over there that can help look for these supply chain attacks? Okay, what have you got going on? So are we looking at, I'm signing on with a security company. Are we looking at sequencing or staging sequencing? If they're trying to exfiltrate data, are we looking at that type of staging of getting ready to exfiltrate data? Because typically we look at access and things like that. We don't look at a lot of staging all of a sudden. So what are we looking at there? What are you guys doing to make sure that a supply chain attack doesn't affect me all of a sudden? Okay. So it's just a new tool. That's what you're doing. You're looking for companies and MSPs that are able to look at that and say, okay, we've got a tool that can handle that as well.
Well, I think that's what it is really. It's all these MSPs that don't want to, they don't want to be going out there and offering a million different tools to people, but they also want to be proactive as opposed to getting caught with their pants down, right?
You can be. You've got password security. You've got that. You've got, are you looking at, because, a lot of security companies they want that SMB access. They want access to 137, 138, 139, 445, the ports. So, are you, the access that's there, is that access being monitored? Is there any, the thing with Solarwinds and that Russian attack is they were able within that security protocol, like those security behaviors.
So does it sound to you like somebody inside was helping, or does it sound like it's completely outside? It was totally outside, right?
Completely outside. You've got a completely malicious attacker. Now you've got you've got the negligent insider. You've got that.
That's where I'm going with that, right? There's, maybe not maliciously, but they're pushing that patch through. They're not checking everything. They're, it's,
right. You've certainly got that. You've got that Solarwinds 1, 2, 3. You've got that, and that's an issue.
It just seems like every which way you look, it's always coming down to what are your people doing? How are they doing it from top to bottom? And that supply chain management that you're talking about, it's not the mechanics and the technology that's got the weakness. It's the people that are programming.
It's always the people. It's always the people, right? I mean, it is. It's always the people. That's what it boils down to. I mean, it's without people, we would be a much more secure.
Yeah, but we wouldn't get any sales.
That's true.
Right?
I mean, that's true. I mean, you take the person away, you would have never had that password pop up.
Right. We just need the emotional intelligence as well as the technical.
I mean, the issue is that, with SolarWinds, with FireEye, again, you don't want to blame the victims because they are the victims on that. But there was some lapses that were going on. I think that they really thought the hubris was there to the degree that they thought they were untouchable, and things started to get a little lazy. At least no
checks and balances.
Right.
Once they and it may have been that password 1, 2, 3 or SolarWinds 1, 2, 3, 4 was meant to be a placeholder and then somebody was going to do that, but something just didn't happen. You know what I mean? So it's, I always come at it from a sense of, okay, well, they didn't mean for that, but it happened.
Yeah, now, did the Russians get access because of that password? No, they didn't. But that's just an indicator of the problems that were going on over there.
For sure.
That's part of that. Other than that, I mean, we can bitch about anything you want to, but that's it. It's very disheartening. Mm-hmm. It truly is. A breach that size to cap off, and we've still got days left in 2020. It's not like this could be the actual cake topping. There may be something that comes in and tops that.
We got like 10 more days.
I know.
This is going to be great.
No. I mean, who knows what could happen in 10 more days? I'm hoping that at least for the 25th, everyone takes a break.
Sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's optimistic.
That's very optimistic.
Good. That's great.
I'll have my rum and my eggnog, though. That's what I'll have.
Yes, I will be. Well, I'm down in Florida, so we'll have coquito, but it's the same thing, only better. We are. Yeah. Yeah. It does not suck being here. We have a
restaurants
fake tree.
Open down there or not?
The restaurants are open. We don't go to many unless there's a patio.
I got you. Yeah. I'm in Birmingham. Restaurants are open. We really don't eat out, though.
Right. Yeah. I've gotten real good at cooking.
Exactly.
Luckily, I married a chef. So.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
Yes. Anyways, thank you so much for coming on and doing this.
Rely on your MSPs. That's the thing. Rely on MSPs. Understand that because you've got a breach, you cannot simply say, "Oh, I don't want to do that. I want to shut down everything." No.
Don't shut down everything. Learn how to layer appropriately, and then have something or someone extrapolating that data and taking a look at all of it. So
that's it.
Yeah.
Okay. But stay safe out there, and thank you for everything you're doing.
You too.
All right.
Bye.